This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today on Uncomplicated, I'm joined by Andrew Seidman, co-founder and COO of Digital Reach. With more than a decade of experience designing full-funnel go-to-market strategies for enterprises and funded startups, Andrew's expertise spans across brand and content, RevOps, digital experience, and pipeline generation. But what makes Andrew's story even more compelling is his background as a high-stakes professional poker player. We'll get into a little bit of that. My dad is a Texas Hold'em, but just for fun, they only bet $1 and a few pennies here. But the lesson he learned about process orientation, risk management, and making time-sensitive decisions at the poker table now fuel his approach to business strategy and operations. We're diving deep into how organizations can measure and maximize word of mouth in ABM, account-based marketing, go-to-marketing motions, connect systems to avoid silos, and actually bring sales alignment to life beyond the buzzwords. Welcome to the show, Andrew. It's so good to have you.
Thanks, Sacha. Great to be here.
It's funny. I'm glad that, we're going to dive in a little bit into the poker player background, because sometimes in marketing, I always like to say, I play marketing like blackjack. I dip in a little, but not entirely. And then I test and learn as the cards start to play out. So tell us, Andrew, origin and background from high stakes poker player to B2B go to market. What did you carry forward from that experience?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing was an understanding that there's kind of risk in everything, and that you're making a collection of bets. I think one of the things in poker that's kind of interesting about poker is results are like not a great indicator. At least like short to medium term results are not a great indicator of how good someone is. When people ask me like, "Oh, is this person good or not good?" Like usually I need to hear them talk about it first before I can understand or even have a sense of whether or not they're actually good at poker. And that's because when somebody talks, they kind of reveal their process, they reveal their strategy, like you kind of like learn how they think about it. And that kind of process orientation is usually what defines someone who's good or not. And I think the same thing happens in marketing. Like you can have a really good process, but you have a market that's moving out from under you, or you have an ad campaign that doesn't like quite land the way that you thought it was going to land or something like that. And that could all be actually totally fine and expected behavior of good marketing. And on the reverse side, you can also have similar to gambling. Like you can have like a bad process, like bad ads, bad content, like bad website, etc. But you can be so squarely on top of product market fit that it doesn't matter, and you don't even notice that you have bad practices. Like my favorite one of this is like Craigslist. Like Craigslist is had the worst possible UX website for.
Ooh, I lost you. Nothing yet. Tell me, are you going to log out, log back in? Maybe try that.
Okay, super weird. Never had that happen before. It like defaulted to my phone, and
Okay.
then wouldn't let me change in the middle of the recording. And
That's totally
so,
fine.
yeah, totally my
Could pick
bad.
up from Craigslist. No, that's okay.
Sure.
So you were saying Craigslist.
Yeah, so I say one of my favorite examples of this is Craigslist, where they have like the world's worst UX possible, like literally the sketchiest links and like this horrible thing. but they were so squarely on top of product market fit that they looked like geniuses because it just worked. And so I think
Yeah.
there's like, it's such a complicated set of inputs to make marketing really effective
Yeah.
that I tend to focus much more on like, what is the process that you're going through to get to where you want to go, as opposed to like, did you or did you not get results? If that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah, totally. But I want to dig in more. I want to hound in on that process orientation that you learned in poker and translate that into leading digital reach today, because I think it's very interesting, and there is a very nice through line and connection between the two.
Yeah, I mean, what more can I say about it? Um, I think in some ways it's like you start to see the probabilistic nature in like everything. Like
Mhm.
we're growing right now, so we're hiring, right? And
Yeah.
like even if we have an amazing candidate who goes through many rounds of interviews and we've done the best we possibly can to see that they're the right candidate for us,
Mhm.
we still accept that it's probabilistic in nature that they'll work out. Like hiring is one of the crazier gambling things that we do, where you like basically make like a lifelong commitment to someone that you hardly know, uh,
Yeah.
and so it's it's a gamble. When like met with our team this morning and discussed like, hey, here are the pros and cons of this gamble versus that gamble. So I think it's in some sense like understanding that you're in a complicated environment where you can't fully access control, and then also where the results are not always exact indicators of good process or not. Like you kind of put your good process into a box, you shake the box, and then like something comes out. And if the process is good, it will come out better for you on net on the average. But if the process is bad, it will come out worse. But it doesn't guarantee that it will come out one direction or the other. And so I think like probably the most like there's these small tactical areas where it's probabilistic, like how your ads perform or something like that is one element of it. But then there's these really really big decisions that are like way higher up in the process than just like your ad campaigns or something, which is like, what is your brand, like what's your message, who are you, what do you care about, who should you market to, how much of a niche should you have, should it be like super narrow, increase your close rates but narrow your audience, should it be like wider, like increase your audience, decrease your close rate. Like there's a lot of like very interesting strategic like questions that are also kind of probabilistic in nature. Like you just don't know. The world is a chaotic and unexpected place, and so you just don't know how these things will go. So you just kind of have to use the best strategies and processes you can come up with. And I think so. I kind of carry that mindset forward when we make choices at Digital Reach.
Yeah. I love that you say that hiring is that risk, because it is the idea that somebody has really sold themselves, right? And it's the belief that, and the trust that you have to have in, is this person going to carry us through? And I think from the standpoint of when clients look at you guys from that standpoint, what do you think is a good baseline? Because most of the audience that are going to be listening are small business and watching this. So it's, what do they need to be thinking about when they're talking to a company like yours?
Yeah, well, I think so. I'll get to what I call like the mechanic or the auto mechanic problem,
I
which
like
is
it.
basically if your car breaks down. I don't know, Sasha, are you a car person?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not a car person. So when your car breaks down and you probably don't even need to take it to the shop, you just fix it yourself. But like, let's say you took it to the shop and then they started talking to you. Technically, you would understand what they were saying. I wouldn't. And so I go to that shop, and probably most people wouldn't. So I go to the shop. The first quote they give me $3,000. I have no context for this quote. I don't know if this is high, low, fair, crazy, etc., or if this person has any idea what they're talking about. So then I go to the next auto mechanic, and they say, oh, it's $4,000. Well, now I have a relative quote, but it's actually still not helpful because it's like I don't know if the first guy was right and the second guy's ripping me off, or the first guy's cheaping out and the second guy's trustworthy, or maybe they're both in cahoots and it really should cost $500, or maybe without the technical expertise you can't know. And so the decision making actually boils down almost entirely to trust. And so how can you develop that trust with the buyer, basically? So from our side of it, like how do we as an agency approach this question of like, well, how do you know that someone is going to give you good process, and increase your chance of results here without like a guarantee? And the answer is like an array of things. One of them is social proof, which is just super straightforward. Like you can say, here are 20 logos that have all gone through something similar to this, and like they like us enough that they let us put our logo on our website, right? So that's one sort of obvious one. The next one is reducing the risk for the client. So for us, our kind of initial offer is this, we call it roadmap, a go-to-market roadmap. It's like a 360 view into your go-to-market where you kind of get like an execution-ready plan at the end of it. And it takes about 4 weeks. So we reduce the risk to our clients in a couple ways. Like one of them, we limit the time exposure. We say, hey, like we're going to have something for you in 4 weeks. It's going to take you basically about 6 hours of your team's time to get that to like help us facilitate it, and then we're going to turn it around for you. So like there's minimal time risk, and then we also say, okay, it's going to cost you $5,000 or whatever the price is for that time. I think right now it's $5,000. Uh, no questions asked, money back guarantee. Like you have a problem with this, like we'll just give you money back. Our mission in that process is not to sell a big engagement. In fact, we are trying to avoid selling a big engagement. Like our mission is to sell a right-sized engagement that helps build trust. So once you get a little bit comfortable, like you actually realize these people are humans, like you start to feel a little bit more like this is the auto mechanic for you. And then the last thing I'll say is about humanizing and taking a human-centric approach is we try really hard. We actually, this has been really top of mind for me lately, but we sort of feel like COVID was a bit of a trap when it comes to like business strategy, which is like we realized that you can communicate all the information that's required to facilitate a campaign or something like that via Zoom. Like I can tell you what the assets are, I can tell you what the timeline is, like we can do all the info swap, but we can't really communicate the trust. We kind of just end up as talking heads. And so we've done a lot to like actually just try to be in person. Like, oh, we're gonna do an engagement together. Like, let me fly out and meet you. Or like, oh, you're coming to New York in a month. Like, come meet me in New York. And so I think those are just a few ways. Like we minimize the time and cost risk. We kind of prove ourselves socially, and we try really hard to like build trust by everything we can, but especially by like creating a human connection with someone. We often have that already because a lot of our business comes from referrals. So a lot of people like already know us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are some I guess ideas of how we kind of bridge that initial gap.
Yeah. Where's the longest you've traveled to meet a client?
Well, I mean, I have lived a vaguely bi-coastal life for a
Yeah.
long time, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of New York to San Francisco and back kind of
Yeah.
ideas,
Yeah.
which in the continental U.S. is about as far as you can get.
Yeah.
I have flown to L.A., so I guess that technically is a little bit further.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was just traveling around in Raleigh and in
Nice.
Phoenix, in San Francisco. We did a big event in July or June
Yeah.
rather. So yeah, but it's been a lot of just like trying to get in person with our clients and with our own team, just like
Yeah. Yeah.
building trust internally as well.
I love that. I love that. I think in person is so important. Andrew, define what ABM means and what does ABM actually look like when done right?
So,
Because I even think, not to
yeah,
interrupt you,
no,
that
please.
some marketers think that they understand it, but they actually don't. So let's break it down from a twofold. So it's really
Yeah, so I guess like to go through the same process as I did a second ago.
yeah.
Like I've worked on ABM programs for a ton of giant companies. So like I've worked on it for like Cisco or for VMware. Like this has been kind of my bread and butter for a long time. Um, I think on its strictest definition possible, you would say that ABM means you are taking an account-centric focus or account-based marketing, so account-centric focus as opposed to a person-based focus. And you'll hear often like lead, and I'll avoid using the word lead for a moment just because leads and contacts, people have different kind of internal system definitions of those things. So like I'm just gonna say people. So you have a people-based approach, or you have a company-based approach or account-based approach. So I think that's on its strictest definition, you have that. On a very, very fundamental level, all B2B marketing is ABM. Um, you're never getting a direct-to-consumer purchase on your B2B product. Like the check signer is always going to be a corporation. And so therefore, like at the end of the day, you are taking an account approach, whether you want to or not. So I'll just sort of start there. The thing that makes account-based marketing, like what it actually really looks like when it's successful, is you recognize that not every lead is equivalent in value. So the most common mistake, or like traditional like lead or person based like demand generation models, you're like, oh, if I have a form submission from the director of IT at Intel, that is worth the same to me as the principal at Joe's Crab Shack. And for most businesses, most B2B businesses, that's like wildly untrue, right? Like that Intel lead is like a million times, like could be potentially literally a million times more valuable than the Joe's Crab Shack lead. I know I always like make fun of Joe's Crab Shack, but and so the first step is like understanding that these leads are not equivalent in value, and that if your organization is built around treating them, both pursuing them and treating them as though they're equivalent in value, you're leaving all of the excess value on the table. Imagine like an SDR whose queue just gets filled up with Joe's Crab Shack and with Intel, and they are compensated identically
Yeah.
for pursuing those. So, what does it look like when it's done well? Well, first, you have a really clear sense of the curve of where the value comes from in your organization from like what your clients are. So usually the value, I don't use value there specifically as opposed to just revenue. The value is going to come from your best fit accounts. So these are usually on the larger side, but not necessarily your largest. They're usually the ones that are like the ones that love you. So I usually just look for like who are your current best customers, the ones that love you the most, that give you reviews, testimonials, etc. Can you partition them with ones that look just like them, and then ones that look kind of like them, and then everyone else?
Okay.
And so you have this kind of curve, this long tail of like the everyone else. Now, the everyone else is going to resemble more or less your existing person management or person based demand gen program. Like these are all just accounts for whom the lead quality actually is roughly the same depending on who comes in. But this higher part of the curve, like, okay, this is much more valuable. So now you're looking at like, well, how am I going to get the most value out of this upper part of the curve? Well, we because there's more value per impression, let's say, just from like an advertising standpoint, you can put in more resources per impression. So that might mean more like optimization or more personalization or like different software tools that you might use to like create one-to-one content. Like one of my favorite AI tools right now is called Tofu, Tofu HQ, and like they can let you spin up for any one of your assets, like tons of one-to-one or one-to-few landing pages. It's like, oh, you have this product? No, now it's a product for Spotify. Now it's a product for Cisco. It's like you can create like incredible personalization, but the tool is not cheap. And so the idea is you're really going to invest in improving the value per impression, wherever that impression might come from, for that target group. So usually that means you're doing some kind of like custom advertising program for them. You're doing some like white glove sales program for them. You're doing like an email program. You're maybe doing like social media programs, that kind of thing. Now, all of those things are like digital channels, digital exploits, etc. They're all secondary to the main thing that makes ABM successful, which I will preach from the mountaintops, which is that word of mouth is by far your best form of entry, regardless. And it is especially by far your best way of entry to places that are tightly guarded, which tend to be that upper part of the curve. Like those are accounts everyone wants to work with. You're not alone in thinking
The
like
word of mouth ones.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
just like the top part of the curve where it's like Intel or whoever, some giant company
Yeah.
that you want to work with. Everyone you're competing with, including much bigger companies than you, are all going for that part of it. So the way you usually get in there is via trusted connection. Like somebody essentially opens the door for you. The biggest mistake that ABM companies make is they focus all this stuff on all their budgets and all their time on these like digital channels, like optimizing these fancy techniques, like all these things. Um, and they just like never call their favorite customers. They never like take them out to dinner. They never like set up private events. They never like nurture the relationships of those early adopters who loved you from the beginning. And what we have found is that there's a shocking amount of interchange, a really surprising amount of interchange between even a relatively small circle of advocates and the broader target audience of people you want to work with. Like we had this experience somewhat recently where like we had a really big account we wanted to enter. We wanted to enter forever, like huge, like Fortune, on 100 or something like that account, really big company. And last year in 2024, with interest rates super high, the marketing economy kind of getting crushed, like a bunch of our clients got laid off or fired, and they fired us as a result. And we made a concerted effort to stay close with those people. Like we liked them as humans, like they were meaningful to us as friends, and they had been good customers of ours. Those people then got jobs at this giant company. like one of them got there, and then that person hired a few more people, and so forth. And so like now that giant company is a customer of ours finally. And the reason, like, so that would be like our ABM approach to that company was that we actually just like nurtured our community extremely well, and then they provided us a natural entryway into working with that organization. So I think there's plenty of these like fancy digital tactics, but the main thing is like take care of your people. Gifts, visits, thoughtfulness, treating them like part of your like your fan club or your community is a lot more effective, I think, than just basically every digital channel.
No, I completely agree with you. How do you maximize and measure word of mouth in ABM?
So we have one metric that we look at internally, which is what we consider to be like our product virality, which we define as how many net new referrals did we obtain for new logo accounts, divided by the number of churned accounts. So these are ones that have fired us or left for some reason. And so if we have that number above one, that means we're growing without sales influence functionally, like we're expanding naturally. Now you can limit that range to just like, let's say our target tier one target accounts or tier two target accounts and be like, okay, how are we doing in terms of virality amongst those accounts? So that's one way of measuring it. Like we have we have pretty good layout for tracking like the source of opportunities or the source of new accounts. So we can kind of see both the people, like the individuals, like we have a list. We can literally run a list in Salesforce of everyone who's ever referred us business and how much total revenue they've referred us. So if it's ever like, okay, I want to take out DRA's 5 biggest advocates out to dinner, like I can tell you who they are, where they live. I mean, I can tell you what school their kids go to, and so it's yeah, I think there's like an intentionality behind how we track this. And so this is actually another thing we offer to organizations who are trying to do ABM is we would like help them build a customer advocacy program.
Hmm. I love that. It's almost like the full circle there. Sales alignment is a buzzword.
Yeah.
What does it look like when it actually works?
So I'll use this in a, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like I'm asking you to really dig down because a lot of these things is like I mentioned with ABM, it's like even some marketers they tend to say and think that they understand the concept of ABM, but I don't think that they necessarily do. And I was, internal at a advertising agency, and the head of our company who wasn't in marketing was just like, we have to do ABM, we have to do ABM marketing, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, does she actually even know what it boils down to and the reason why she wants to do it versus just spewing it out because it's what she's been reading, and that it has a return on investment, or that everybody's doing it so we should be doing it, and so on and so forth. But yeah,
Well,
back to the go ahead.
I think people philosophically understand this idea of like,
Yeah.
it makes more sense for us to focus on the big companies or like the valuable companies than like the
Yeah.
long tail of other companies for most brands. So I think people like kind of on a philosophical level understand it. They understand the idea that like in order to shift that, we need our sales and marketing teams to row the boat together.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I think it's where it breaks down is we're like, well, what does that actually mean? Like, what if we're going to apply this somehow? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you like 2 examples of how I think
And
sales.
before you jump into that,
Yeah,
I love that analogy that you just gave of sales and marketing need to row the boat together. I also want to drop another department in there that I think is important if they do have it, specifically also B2B, is customer
yep.
service.
I was going to say
Because
sales for sure.
a lot of the times is those three need to be in lockstep, because if sales is doing the job that marketing has been fulfilling for them and then it drops off at customer service, it's a sure loss. And going back to your point of taking care of who has loved you from the beginning, take care of those who even come into the funnel, because then you're just spending and you're churning, and then you're in this vicious cycle.
Yeah, we actually have another metric that we have that is super interesting on this, which is like we track the number of advocates created. So we have a very clear definition of what advocacy means, like
Yeah, I was just about to ask you.
somebody who has referred us business, somebody who has upsold their existing account into more business, somebody who has given us permission to use a testimonial or a case study, or someone who's given us a 10 out of 10 on an NPS score survey.
Yeah.
And so if somebody fits any one of those 5 definitions, which we track in Salesforce and HubSpot, they automatically get bumped into advocacy. They get stamped as a date for when they became an advocate. And so we can run a report that says, okay, how many advocates did we create each month, and be able to get a sense of like how are we doing as far as like converting our customers into advocates. I think it's tremendously important, and it's like a critical part of the overall funnel. Like if you're not doing any kind of customer feedback, well, first of all, you're missing customers that are mad at you. You're like losing the chance to save customers that would otherwise leave. But also, like your best source of marketing is the stories of your customers. So, like
Mm-hmm.
somebody gives you a 10 out of 10 on NPS, like call them and inquire what
Yeah.
happened. Like who on our team was really good. Like maybe give them some extra cash, or
Yeah.
like who, or like can I tell your story to other people? Like can we make a marketing thing about it, a video, a case study, whatever. So I think there's a real disconnect often between the CX team and the marketing team, and they really actually
Mm-hmm.
should be like super lockstep. And sales tends to be closer to CX because like whenever you're growing accounts, like they're kind of involved in that. There's a natural like CSM AE dynamic, but like marketing is often out of that loop and should be in it. Um, your original question though was
Sales alignment being a
sales alignment.
buzzword.
Yeah,
Yeah. What does it look like when
I'll
it
give
actually
you two
works?
examples
Mm-hmm.
of what it looks like. One of them is how do you talk about who you are and what you do? So we'll call this like brand alignment or product messaging. Like the marketing team may have one idea of how they want to position the product, how they want to like talk about it with the customer. And then the sales team might have a totally different one. And it can lead to like really bad conversion rates. Like basically, you find that you spend all this effort to get this first lead from this target account, and they download it because they are expecting product to do X, and then they end up in a conversation where product does Y, and they're like, oh, that's not really what I was looking for, and they leave. So I think this is one of the most common ones where it's like, do you have a centralized source of your brand and product messaging? Really good companies just have this, like they've got the product messaging docs, everyone's trained on the same thing, like that's good. But a lot of companies have fragmentation, where it's like we have our marketing messaging, we have our sales messaging, they are not the same, and so there's conflict or friction there.
Yeah.
But the example that I prefer the most, I'll actually go back to the one we had before about like the Intel versus Joe's Crab Shack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's take a common sales dynamic where a salesperson has to get 20 meetings booked per month. Pretty common, like that's their quota. For them, doesn't matter if it's Joe's Crab Shack or Intel. Like they're just going to go try to make a meeting happen because they just got to get to their quota. A more aligned sales program might have, let's say, points instead of meetings, where one tier three account, like Joe's Crab Shack, is worth 1 point. You need 20 points to make your quota. But one tier one account, like Intel, might be worth 20 points. So, like, your whole month of work is done if you are able to get this Intel meeting on the books. And that like really changes the incentive for the salesperson. Like they are now really focused on getting that Intel meeting, and they could kind of care less about Joe's Crab Shack for the time being. And so I think that is like one example of how an ABM org might shift its like might get alignment from its marketing and its sales. But you have to understand this is like really disruptive to the and like quite political for the sales org. Like the sales org usually doesn't really understand why this change is being made. Like they're less bought into the differentiated value. Like they can be trained and bought into it, but it's like usually a bit of a political conversation to basically have marketing come in and say we're going to uproot the sales quota system. Is quite political. So usually you need somebody very high up, like often C-level, who is going to like basically approve the entire like reimagining of the go-to-market, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, totally. As it relates to and under all of this from sales alignment and excuse me and breaking silos, how can leaders connect systems across RevOps, content, and digital experience to avoid all of these silos? Let's talk a little bit about that. And I love RevOps because I think it is an area in which you think you're doing it right, but it's not fully working like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and I'm a RevOps guy by original trade. So like
Ah, okay.
I started in marketing doing Salesforce and Marketo, and then added HubSpot into the mix, and have like basically worked in these
Love
days.
and hate Marketo.
I prefer HubSpot these days, but there's
Yeah.
pros and
It's
cons.
a good engine. It's massive,
Yeah,
actually.
for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, many of our clients are Marketo
Yeah.
customers, and so like we're more than happy to help facilitate Marketo work. In fact, I
Yeah.
would say we enjoy it, although HubSpot has some additional benefits.
Yeah.
Um, the RevOps and content alignment question. So content tends to be they're difficult for different reasons. Content is uh, easier to facilitate, but much more politically sensitive, which is to say, like, if you're starting with the brand message and the product messaging documents, these are like deeply personal documents for the CEO, right? Like, this is, who am I? What are our values? Who do we want to work with? Um, what do our products do and for whom? Like, these questions, how you talk about those things, it's very difficult for like a mid-level marketing director or something like that to like decide these things on their own. Like, they don't
Yeah.
really have the ability to do it. So it requires a lot of like philosophical buy-in to, if you don't have these things already, to get kind of that centralized source of truth for content and brand messaging. The RevOps side of it tends to be a little bit less political. Like, you're not usually like touching someone's on the C-level's baby in this way, but it's more like it's quite difficult for non-technical people to like understand the values associated with it. And so it's really difficult to get the investment required to get like the technical resources in to work on these like otherwise kind of abstract problems. So like, I'll give you an example. Like, um, we have clients who spend like millions per month in ad spend, and they use kind of outdated attribution technology. Like, we're using like a first and last touch, or even just like a pure first touch model to attribute the value of this like tons of ad spend. Like, we would install their entire multi-touch ad program, or attribution program rather, for like 100K, and like it would be a blip in their monthly budget. But it's like difficult to be like, oh, it's worth us not getting a few hundred leads, so that we can focus on this thing that will actually make our decision making better. Like, it becomes very abstract very quickly. It's like, now we're spending all this money on like a business intelligence project that's not going to give us leads tomorrow, and it's like, we're going to use it to make choices. So it's a little bit difficult to like convince the organizations to invest in RevOps. I find this like especially fascinating right now because AI is this like clearly this like runaway train bearing down on everyone, and it is clearly driven by centralized documentation and clear
Yeah.
systems. So like,
Yeah.
your brand systems documents, brand product documents, and then your like RevOps and data cleanliness. And so it's like, if people aren't going to get it now, they got to invest in this. Like, I don't know when they're going to get it. Like, they're probably going to get run over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but only to say, like, I think the biggest problems I see are usually like a lack of ability to explain or convince the value for what's happening in these systems. And then, like, it's too abstract, and then like, you just can't get the budget.
Yeah. Because they only really see. Are you saying because they only really see the wealth of setting these things up once they have the data in hand?
It's the outcomes are really abstract. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you think about it, like, a simple dichotomy, like, if your organization is losing in the marketplace,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm not spending money on some abstract thing that's going to help me make better choices. Like, I need more leads. I'm losing.
Yeah.
And if your organization is winning, they tend to be like, I'm winning. I don't need to spend like a ton of money on like building some new system that's abstract and I don't understand. Like, we're already winning. Like, let's keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
winning from the sense of going from like 15 million to like a 30 million jump, then that's where something like this would come into play and an investment would make sense.
I mean, it's likely that for most organizations, the investment makes sense at
Yeah.
a wide range of kind of revenue amounts. But it's more like, oh, I set these goals. I'm hitting my goals.
Yeah.
This stuff is not like, there's this level of separation between like the classic pipeline goals, and like a RevOps system. So like, a RevOps
Yeah.
system might improve. I mean, it should improve, let's say, like your cost per opportunity. You
Yeah.
should get more efficient opportunities if you're doing a better job nurturing your leads and contacts. Sure, but like, it's not so obvious the way that it is like a new ad program is like directly attributable, right? Like, the marketing stuff or automation stuff or RevOps stuff is like, it's like a component piece of a more complicated puzzle. And so like, you might say, well, like, we installed the system and like cost per opportunity went down by 20%.
Yeah.
They might say, no, no, we made a better ad campaign. So that's why the cost per opportunity went down by 20%. And then the sales team said, no, 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 we did some new sales work. So that's why the cost per opportunity went down 20%. And it's very difficult then to turn around and say, no, no, like, you need to spend 200K or 100K fixing these systems. Folks are like, nah, it's too complicated, like not worth it. Even though it's like when you live in these systems, it's like extremely obvious. It's just very hard to convince people who don't live in these systems.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. What are the most common mistakes you see organizations make when trying to scale their go to market? And has that changed with the explosion of AI?
Um, it's a great question. I think I'll answer the second part first. Like I think AI on a corporate level fits into one of two buckets. Like either you are small enough that it is worth the risk to basically like YOLO your way into some pretty new tools and just like harness the power, because if you get in trouble, it doesn't matter. Like you're fighting for your life anyway. Or you're so big that there's tons of danger with using these tools, and like they're currently all stuck in procurement and no one has ever used them. And probably won't use them until like a more robust guardrail framework becomes available or like easier to use. Like basically the premise of every AI tool you start is just like give us all your data and then we'll do stuff for you. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
kind of hard sell for a lot of big companies. Um,
A hard sell because also they just don't understand the what's the word I'm looking for? It's the not even just the risk of dumping all your data, but what really is the data protection, right?
yeah, I mean, this is like, and some of these things is like actually kind of still unknown.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many layers of questions. Like, what is the engine underlying your tool? Like, is it just a wrapper for ChatGPT? Like, if that is true, are you just handing over all the sensitive data to OpenAI? If it's not, what is your own personal protection for all that information? Like, how do you make sure that other clients are not, let's say, other customers aren't like just accessing data from our organization? Um, there's ethical questions attached. Like, there's all kinds of I think like interesting puzzles on one side of the scale, and then the other side of the scale is like power. And so it's like everyone can recognize and see the power, but they're like the incentive structure is different depending on how much you have to lose.
Yeah.
So you have very little to lose, but like you need all the power, like go for it. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of big companies is kind of the reverse. As far as like what are the big mistakes that people make in their go to market, I think probably the biggest and most common one that I see is they just jump straight to the driving of traffic. And they're
Mhm.
usually it's usually an understandable outcome because there's usually tremendous time pressure on getting to, if especially if you're like a startup or a mid-market company, you're like,
Launching.
I have to get to my goals to raise the next round or we're dead. And so there's like tons of emphasis on just driving traffic. I have this good graphic that we share with our clients a lot, which is like a pyramid, and the top of the pyramid is pipeline generation, and there's an arrow that says like this is where most folks want us to start. And then below that, you've got your data systems, and then below that, you've got your digital experience, and then below that, you have your brand and your content strategy. And it's like there's another arrow that points to the bottom. It's like this is where people should start.
Yeah.
Um, I think you have to kind of like balance that forward thinking, like what will give us the best value on our impressions with the kind of immediate, like I need impressions today. And again, going all the way back to like the poker question, like it is tempting to be like, I need like to emphasize the thing that will show me results immediately, as opposed to like the best process, which is usually like really identify your brand and audience, really identify your message properly, build a core offer that like follows kind of classic best practices, build a website that clearly demonstrates your qualifications, build a data system that clearly like can report on your processes, that can like nurture and follow leads through a funnel, or accounts through a funnel. And then ultimately you're like, okay, I've kind of got everything ready to receive high volumes of traffic. Then you can dump your budget into driving traffic. Now, most organizations can't do it in that degree of like waterfall stepping, but like they should
Yeah.
really have a more balanced approach to like how they go about it. And then I'll put a little caveat on that, which is that even then within the pipeline generation side of it, another mistake is people just go for the bottom of the funnel. They have bad attribution, so they're just like
all my traffic comes from Google, or all my like opportunities come from Google. So like I'm just gonna like go all in on Google. Except if you think about a funnel, like there's a very small percentage of the market that is like actually searching for something on Google, and those are very, very expensive terms, especially if you get right outside of, you know, the initial diminishing return curve. Then you're just blowing all your money on nothing. Whereas
Yeah.
like having a healthier investment in the funnel and like a channel mix that understands like, oh, I need to actually have a brand position for new people entering the area trying to learn, and then I need to have a brand position for people who are like, oh, like maybe they're actually considering if they should get help in this, but they're not sure if they need help with this yet or not. So they want to like understand, consider that. And then there's the people who are like, okay, I've considered it and I definitely want to get help. I'm in market to go buy. I think people way overemphasize the bottom part of this again due to those time pressures, and definitely like underestimate like the long term health of just like building a full funnel.
Mm-mm. So, on the flip side of that, if you could change one thing about how enterprises approach go to market, what would that be?
Hmm.
So, we talked common mistakes,
Yeah,
and now I'm asking.
yeah. And I'll take enterprises to be something broad here, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a wide array of company sizes. Um,
Yeah, just as you identify small businesses, you know.
I wish that most go to markets evaluated their maturity kind of holistically and looked at their maturity across kind of a variety of key functions.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an idea, kind of a misconception that like if you put all of your energy into a thing, you can scale that thing by itself, like kind of indefinitely or to the maximum. So like we're going to invest in our advertising program. We're going to put our money in ads, and like ads will be a successful program that can basically keep scaling. But it's actually kind of it's limited by whatever your least mature part of your go to market is. Like if you have a super crappy website, your ad program will only go so far because it's driving traffic towards a disqualifying experience. If your branding content is like kind of not on point, like it's not really aligned with people, like it doesn't really matter if you have the world's best advertising team. Like if their message sucks, they can't really go anywhere. And so I think there's like a siloing that happens where you have different owners at a company responsible for different parts of the go to market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be better, like I would recommend for them that they like look at it as one cohesive unit where they need to like have the rising tide float all boats, as opposed to, investing really, hey, ads seem to work. We're going to go all in on ads, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where do you see are the biggest opportunities for marketers in the next 2 to 3 years?
I mean, the obvious one is getting the AI game in play. There are some really incredible things happening now. So like one of the ones that Clay kind of revolutionized this, but I think it's about to get kind of commoditized by it's certainly like HubSpot just rolled out a competitive product and it'll probably be like more of a thing. But basically the idea is like you can append columns or fields to your data set, that is just whatever the AI can find on the internet.
Mm.
So
So, how you stack up, maybe?
well, so like here's like the one example, like 101 is just like, okay, show me the best coffee shop near the headquarters of my top 100 accounts. And
Mm.
it comes through and it says like, oh, okay, like Monarch Coffee Shop is your best coffee
Mm-hmm.
shop
Mm-hmm.
near this company. Now when you're going to go talk to someone, you're like, why don't you meet me at Monarch? And they're like, oh, Monarch. You're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, it's very like contextual and personalized. But I think
What's
even
the
more,
tool? What's the tool called?
so this is something that's called clay.com.
Okay.
CLAY, and also HubSpot just released a similar feature. But where it gets even crazier is that you can basically have this run on batches where it
Yeah.
updates um, your custom database on a regular schedule, looking for specific, let's say, intent ideas. So one of them might be like, notify me anytime someone in this Reddit community says something negative about one of my competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine like you just get an inbox that's like this person said that they're kind of done with this your competitor and they're looking for a new person. Like you could be in the DMs in 5
6 seconds.
minutes
Yeah.
and or post in the thread or like represent yourself as like an authority or something like that.
Yeah.
So like I think the ability for AI to capture intent signals
Mm-hmm.
in the broader ecosystem is like way underdeveloped and is like about to become a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think content, I'm not really sure what's going to happen because I actually think that AI struggles to solve the major content problem, which is like you have brilliant information stuck in someone's head,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't actually do anyone any good to have AI write junk. It's like not particularly valuable.
Yeah.
But like, how do you get that problem of like great content comes from some brilliant, experienced person, like unloading it from their head? Like, how do you make that happen? I think that AI can scale those things once they're out, but they're kind of hard to get out.
Yeah.
Usually, also people are paying those people a lot to not write content, so it's like
Yeah.
there's a big incentive problem. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of these kind of like AI based tools that could, in theory, like scale, like dramatically scale a single person's ability. So I think that's kind of where the big opportunity lives.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that. Well, Andrew, this has been incredibly insightful. But before we let you go, we want to do our fireside round. Are you ready?
Hit me, hit me.
One word, a word that defines you or your approach to business.
Community,
I love community. One myth, a common misconception about ABM, go to market, or marketing that drives you crazy.
digital channels. Oh, one word. Shoot.
It is fine. Digital channel is fine.
I'll just say digital.
Digital.
Yeah,
So
basically,
it's
like
what's the misconception about digital though?
that it's like the primary driver of account traction.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree at all. One habit, a daily or weekly habit that keeps you sharp as a leader.
Um, hmm. The first thing that came to my mind was sleep.
That's
That's some
fine.
sleep.
I think we are at our best when we have slept a good amount.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm somebody that doesn't drink coffee, and if I don't get my sleep in, then
My
it's
executive coach,
detrimental.
I have a key word actually I should have used for that. My executive coach and I worked on this word beachy, which is just like bring an attitude to work like you're hanging out on the beach.
I
You know?
love that. Beachy, one habit.
Yeah.
That's a great one, actually.
Mhm. Mhm.
I appreciate you, Andrew, for your time and spending it with us. And I think we could have gone on forever, especially digging into the 15,000 plus tools that are out there, and as it continues to grow with AI. So thank you for all your insight today.
You're very welcome, Sasha. Until next time.
All right.